Hey guys, this is Paul Davies, and here's my presentation on breaking into new organizations and how to set up that first meeting. Here are the 6 things we'll be covering today. First, we'll be talking about customer-supplier relationships and overcoming those barriers to entry. Then we'll talk about how to approach the first meeting, the proposal structure, warm calling, and what to do in the first meeting. Now, what should your ideal customer relationship look like? In my opinion, it should have the following. You should both be looking and receiving mutual benefits from this relationship. You have a reasonably good understanding of one another. There are some shared values. If you've got a good relationship with your customer, you both share some values, some perspective that works well for both of you. And finally, and most importantly, there's a level of trust. The problem is that getting to that new customer, you're dealing with a lot of new barriers to entry. Some of these barriers you can see, and some of them you can't see, and you'll learn about over years. So here's my take on the barriers to entry to a new customer relationship. Firstly, senior management is very hard to reach. And why is that? They've got gatekeepers to protect them from people like you. They're very, very busy. They've got lots of stresses and challenges in their day job. And like most of us, we are resistant to new change and to new introductions. So we're less likely to be open in meeting new people unless there's a real driver to do that. Secondly, organizations themselves are resistant to change. And why is that? Well, a few things. They might have incumbent suppliers. And even if those suppliers are average or a little bit bad, they'll probably stick with them unless something really bad happens. Often there'll be long-term contracts in place. Many government agents have panel arrangements that last for up to 5 years before they open up to the market. And then this is a critical thing. Minor changes can be difficult. So particularly if you're selling technology and software into organizations, making one piece of software change can be really challenging. Getting an organization to change its CRM can be massively difficult when you're big and complex. So they are big things to change when you're trying to sell to new companies. Then finally, relationships take time. You need to invest a lot up front before you get to see any sales, and then even longer to get a return on that investment. So it takes time to build, and you need to be prepared to invest that time, and your pricing needs to be at a level that can afford your time to invest. We're going to talk about what's called the customer journey, and the way I describe it, it's the process by which a customer goes from having an awareness of a potential problem or opportunity to implementing that problem and solving that problem or implementing that opportunity. So it's broken up into the following steps. Firstly, the customer needs to be aware of this problem or opportunity. They need to be aware there's something not happening right that they need to change. That's critical to start. This might occur when you meet with the customer and you talk with them about changes in your industry, or it could be that they find that out themselves and they start looking for ways to solve it. And this naturally relates to the problem-solving stage. So they'll start looking for ways to address that problem. Can they fix up their current solution? Do they need a whole new set of solutions? Should they make some structural changes to their organization? Big decision making, and usually this part is decided internally. And then there's a consensus on what they want to do. So typically an organization, there's more than one decision maker and more than one person that has a vested interest. So they need to work it out as a group and before going any further. In that process, they will be also filtering prospective suppliers. So you might be brought in at this stage when they know what solution they want and you're just being considered among other suppliers, Or you might have been lucky enough to start that conversation right at the beginning when they weren't even aware of the opportunity. So regardless of the stage you've started at, the customer will then be filtering down to figure out what they want. And next, they make their final decision and negotiation with the supplier, and that's an interesting part. And finally, there's the delivery of the solution or product. So as the customer journey, it's good to understand how that applies for your product and some general things that can occur. The more times you have in taking customers through and closing sales, the more you'll get a picture in your mind what that journey looks like for your product and industry. And the better you can map this, the better you'll be at solving problems and getting through certain challenging stages. Now here's my approach to the first meeting. Firstly, aim for the low-hanging fruit. What I mean by that is get the meetings with the people that you know. You might know the CEO of an organization that could be a customer. You might be able to be introduced to somebody very easily to another person. So go for the ones that within your meeting, within your network, that you can find and catch up with and influence. These are a lot easier than completely cold organizations where there's no relationship. Next is know your customer. Understand the type of customer that you want to reach out to, the type of organization that would be ideal for your product, and go for it. So if you can build that repository of prospective customers and the organizational role, are you aiming for the CEO, CFO, operations manager? Know who that person is and then look for it. Now, a lot of this information is free on the internet by doing Google searches or by searching LinkedIn. Next, and very important, is understand the value of your product. So customers do not care about your software product or what you're selling. They only care about the value, and they only hope that they can get value out of the product that you're offering. That's all they care about it. And whether they get it from you or somebody else, that's what they're looking for, is customer value. So understand what your value is to your product's value, and then find ways to articulate that to your customers. And then next part is use your emails and letters. So find and design different versions of emails or ways to contact your customers, and start building and experimenting. At this website, Startup Sales Coach, there's a bunch of templates you can just go straight into and check out. And warm calling. So what that means is that you shouldn't cold call, you shouldn't call somebody completely cold, but call them from a warm perspective by asking them if they received your email, asking them if they received the letter you sent. So if you call from that point of view, it's much easier. You're not as stressed, and the customer is like, hey, I just wanted to see if you got my letter. Now let's talk about the proposal structure. The proposal structure is a communications tool. It essentially helps you to build a bridge between the current state of your customer and their desired future state. It's also logical and very persuasive. Now, I came across the proposal structure while doing my MBA about 12 years ago, and since then it's been one of the most important things I've come across in my career. It's an amazing way of communicating. So it's not just for sales, but for any type of influence or wanting to communicate a message clearly. This is a great way to do it. So let's talk through it. The proposal structure is made up of 6 sections or slots, and first one is the situation. So the situation is describing their current problem or opportunity. This is where you're currently at from the customer's perspective. The objective is that given the problem or opportunity, here are objectives for solving or realizing it. Then methods means given those objectives, here are the methods we'll use to achieve them. Once you've done the methods, the qualification is these are our qualifications, or this is our experience that enables us to achieve these things, and here are the costs as well. And then finally, the benefit that they hope to realize by following this approach. Now, there's also a reference down the bottom of where the structure has come from, and it's a great tool. So if you go to the templates section of Startup Sales Coach, there's a lot of examples on how you can use it. Now we'll talk about the first meeting agenda. The primary purpose is to build a better understanding and build a relationship with your customers. Now, think about this. If you sell to a customer for 10 years, and that's a lot of money over a long period of time that you can get from that customer. So that could be in the millions of dollars if you do it right. So as a startup, you want to build these long-term relationships that will just keep turning over and over. You won't do that until you build that good understanding and that relationship. So this is why it's critical. Next is to share value with your potential customer, and that is done by many things, but a couple of examples are white papers and case studies. Sharing value with the customer in that first meeting is a way to build that stronger relationship. It helps you to communicate that you care about them and helping to improve their situation. And yeah, it's critical. Part of understanding them is knowing about their challenges. Really knowing about their challenges even better than they do is important. And number 4, you need to ask the most important question. What is the most important question, you might think? Well, it's understanding what their decision process is. After the first meeting, you need to know what that is. And finally, clearly define what the next steps will be. And finally, good luck. As mentioned in the presentation, there's templates available in the templates section of this website. Check them out. Some good letters and email examples, as well as some good examples of how to apply the proposal structure in your sales. And use that up. Let us know if there's anything more you need. Thanks.